Thank you. What a wonderful way to start your day. You know, we could always be welcomed by Opus 118, number 2. Yes. And then you have to wake up quickly because you have to play number 3. So, beautiful, really thoughtful, a lot of heartfelt playing and intelligently managed attention to the details of the score. Right? And so these set of pieces, of course, are one of probably everybody's favorites, if not your favorite. We can talk about a lot of things today. You play very well. I think especially when you breathe. And so the way you spaced the phrasing and the timings, a lot of personal and sophisticated things that were very successful in communicating to us just now. For the ballad, you know, it's interesting, the titles of these works. And sometimes they're counterintuitive because you think of intermezzo as just an intermezzo, right? But actually it's such a deep piece. It doesn't exist between two more significant things. I mean, every piece is significant. Ballades, he wrote other ballades. Have you played the other ballades? So he calls this ballad. So the opus, I think it's opus 10, the set of 4 ballades. Yeah. So do you have a narrative? Of course, this is for this piece, the 6 pieces as a set. And do you have a story for each one of them? Because when you play them in the sequence, you know, 1 through 6, sometimes it affects sort of how this first chapter goes to the second, to the third, right? So have you thought about it? Because it's a very personal thing for everyone. A farewell. Can you speak up just a tiny bit? Maybe tell the, because I have a mic, unfortunately, but. Mm-hmm.
Third one is more dramatic, definitely. It's more movement, the relationship between these 2.
Mm-hmm. So the overarching, I guess I'm wondering about the overarching story. If you would agree, I mean, the last number 6, sometimes it's easier to talk about the end first, being in E flat minor. You know, right away it's evocative of something that's more elegiac, you know, the way it starts with almost like a lonely flute, almost like a chant, something distant, something old. Whereas the first one, the first piece of the set, just bursts in with incredible passion, right? And then we have romance, and then etc. So these sets being dedicated to Clara Schumann, I mean, there might be something to this, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. Many people have talked about this might be a love letter to Clara, and with all these sort of hidden and less hidden, more obvious messages to her. But, you know, that's for your own imagination, of course. Can we just go backwards a little bit from the ballad? So the ABA form of these works makes it both, I think, easier to learn, but also more demanding in that, you know, it's not just a return. There's always a slight change. And so if you look at the score, you'll see each time there's something slightly different. And of course, when you go from an A section to a B section, and these 2 sections are very dramatically different, you go from this heroic A section in the ballad, this sort of struggle that you feel, and then the release of that in the B section, and then when you come back, it probably feels different because he sort of eases back into it, doesn't he? whereas the beginning, he just puts his foot down. So I think there's something about it psychologically, right? Usually when you get back to the A section, having gotten that out of your system, you know, and the way it sort of eases back into it, it evolves and transforms back into the main theme. The tempo can be maybe a little bit more held. So I'm wondering if we can pay more attention to articulation between short notes and long notes. And that being said, if you conceive of this, if you will, that the inner voices perhaps could be horns, and so the length of these notes are not necessarily as secco as you played, and therefore maybe the feeling of two, right? He writes in Alla Breve, it's allegro, energico. To me, there's something that's held. So he doesn't want you to, in my opinion, push forward. So I think it's the feeling of the energy that you brought is great, but I think it's trying not to continually propel forwards. So if you just think, 1, 2, 1, 2. Can we try it one more time? And a little bit longer is what I mean. So these things. Right? So they're not necessarily accompanimental, but they're almost a counter melody. So of course you have, everybody know this, but I think very equally important is, it's beginning on an offbeat. Okay, one more time. Okay, let's take a moment to look at the score. So when I say the tempo being more held, it's related to characterization. And so there is a very big difference in these pickups. So usually with Brahms, in a lot of romantic music, right, the individual notes or the individual, one's own feeling is very important. So that's personified very often with a short pickup, you know. And this music, very often, as you know, it starts with the pickup. So I would try not to rush that. So, for example, this piece. The trio, Opus 8, which you revisited later. That's a nice example. Simple melody, but it's a larger pickup, right? So, in other words, while it's a sort of a classical framework where you're still going to longer points, longer note rhythms, because they are important, I would try not to rush to them. Can you try? So, better. And even here, if you think about the dotted quarter eighth rhythm, what I'm hearing is D, ba, ba. Right? I'm hearing D, ba, bum, ba, bum. But if you switch that around and you think the rhythm, the dotted quarter eighth is not necessarily a long note to a short note, but a short note to a long note, ba-bee, ba-bum, ba-bum, it changes a lot of things. So can we try that? Slowly. Yeah, one more time. Does that make sense? So technically, get the arm to go into the keys a little deeper on the eighth notes. So, yeah. The reason I think this is important, so the phrase starts from the upbeat. If you take a look at the next version of this, which is the pickup, what is that, to measure 11? So we start with staccato. And these staccatos, you know, I think it's sort of programmed into us when we're very young. You know, your piano teacher says staccato is short. But really, it's not always just dry. There's probably one way we practice to play legato, or to trick everybody to think we play legato on the piano, right? Because it's an illusion in a way, because we can't play a sound without the attack. But there's an infinite possibility of a way to play a short note, right? So, ba, ba, di, bo. Right? So think about that. And Brahms knew that. So if you look at the pickup to measure 11, these are separated notes, but now they're marked as dots. Yeah, we might call that portato, right? So can you now start there? So it completely transforms the character. Now what do we have? That's right, now we have legato. And again, now this one. Okay, good. And what's different about this version? Pickups to measure 15. It's a slight difference. It's the same articulation, but he inserts something very important in that pickup. Yes, this. You know, sometimes it's called a hairpin. So what does this mean for you? This little thing. We have these all over this piece, right? It's everywhere. What is this? And how do we do it? And can you do it, actually, on the piano? Sometimes you see it on one note. And you're like, really, Brahms? Yes, really. You can sing it. So what does it mean here? We're getting somewhere. It's for me. I mean, there are a lot of ways to interpret every marking, right? So my take on it is that, especially in this piece with this, when they're very tiny like this, or in Schumann you see this very often, and as I mentioned, sometimes on one note, on a melodic note you'll see this, on a long note. It is an expressive marking. So if you were a string player or a singer, you could vibrato on it, you could crescendo on it, all sorts of things. You could change the color of that long note or these pickups, but as a pianist, we're kind of stuck. So what we have to do, you have to imagine it, you have to feel it, and you have to first convince yourself, yes, this is an expressive moment. So the first order of business, I think, when you're talking about how to be expressive is through timing. Just it's a little bit of a heartache, right? Which shows up earlier in number 2, which you did very beautifully. So it's the same. So take some time. It's another way to write rubato, I think. Yeah. When you played it for us before, you played short. I don't know if you realize that, but okay, we won't tell anybody. Okay. Then the heartbeat. Pom 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 pom. Sorry, one more time. Which articulation are we doing? How, if you can think these portatos, so to carry, right? Pom pom pom. Can you play them as if you're slightly tentative? You know, we have this like very confident opening. Pa pa pi, ya pa pa. But this time, it's more of a reflection of that. Maybe it's an inner feeling. You know, with Schumann, we talk about Florestan and Eusebius, external, internal. Maybe this is more internal, more private. A little bit more timid, more tender. Now more espressivo. More and more. Now espressivo. The pickup was much better. Sorry, I didn't mean to play over it. And then what do you see here? This decrescendo. He leaves out the crescendo part. So I don't think it's necessarily a decrescendo. So if you continue the idea, it works very well. Yeah. Poco crescendo. He likes this word poco. He uses it in a way that I think other composers necessarily don't. Of course, we know poco crescendo. A lot of composers do it. But the one marking that he uses that I still can't figure out what it means is poco forte. It's one of those mysteries, you know? So when you go around to various, like these festivals are great because you get to meet colleagues and you talk to other, knowledgeable people, and you talk to students, and it's nice to get a take on sort of innocent views, having not studied too much is also refreshing, right? You say, what do you make of this poco forte? What does this mean? Why poco forte? Why not just mezzo forte? Does it mean so a little forte? It's like, is it less? Is it still strong but not too strong? So these words poco crescendo, maybe it's a suggestion of a temperament, or in this case, a suggestion that something is transforming from this sort of tenderness and just the thought of beginning to change. Poco crescendo, but not necessarily crescendo, right? Something is changing, and it's just the beginning of it. So take your time with it. Now we have crescendo. Good. Yeah. Good. Except I would like to hear the rest as the accent. So we have this. So we have the rhythm. Right, there's a little rest there. Deep, ba. That's it. Fine. Yeah, okay. So now we're just kind of examining maybe how to take what we're given from Brahms and really enjoy it more and take your time with it. I would like to just, because I think maybe I can say it in more in a simplistic way. These. Can you imagine that they're tenutos and not staccatos? So every note has a little bit of a, of an important, like a legato tonguing, or So with the caveat that you are not allowed to connect one to the next. So this is not okay. I mean, of course it's okay, but I'm just pretending it's not okay. So if we can have, so we have a separation. And of course, the more resonant the hall, the bigger the separation. So I want the hands and the arms to still go to the bottom of the keys. So you have to hold this, of course. But so your hand's already on the key, right? Because you have to hold. So remember the one caveat I said, please don't connect any of these chords. Is it? Or is it? Yeah, okay. Okay, the texture is getting better. And now make it sound even better. Shape it, pop, pop, poppy. He didn't write a crescendo, but of course, I think the assumption is that we will do it because we know it's a sort of a rocket. It's rising and it's ascending back to the top, right? He struggles to get there. 3-note ascending motive in stepwise motion, and then there's this leap. Pop, pop, pop. So I think the energy comes from the lowest point, and don't be afraid to make a crescendo back to the top. Okay. Can we jump for a moment now to the B section? Yeah. So now the opposite. If you take a look at measure 38, now he uses molto, opposite of poco, diminuendo molto. So you're like, oh, wow. So he's very subtle in poco forte, but diminuendo molto. When you see molto, it's completely going to somewhere else emotionally with everything. So this is a diffusion, I think, these few measures, okay? So can you... use the pickup. Okay, good. Do you see why now I played this for you? It's kind of similar. And this set being his penultimate published works, piano works, right? It's always an autobiographical experience. Composers very often are self-referential, and, unintentionally or intentionally. But I think one thing that will help you with this transition is if you keep the idea, it's body, baram, baram, barim, baram, rather than trying to make a diminuendo molto, right? So use the rhythm to transform, not just the dynamic. So we have... So you still feel the swing. Okay, good. Okay. Now una corda and stay una corda. So just imagine the line is going up, but don't actually try to push it up. Yeah, just let it float by itself. It's so beautifully written. A little bittersweet. Right? Or if you like to include... That's probably a good idea, right? Okay, that's it. And longer. Yeah. And then you'll notice it's getting very beautiful. Measure 47, 48 has another hairpin. It's a little longer. You did this crescendo, decrescendo, but what if you, it's just kind of like, you feel a little bit more. You don't need to play louder, play softer, there's a lot of short, long in this music. So that's all I want to mention about number 3, okay? Let's examine if we have time. I think we do, good. Like I said, this was quite lovely. How many times does this opening theme repeat? I mean, we can never get enough of it, obviously, in this piece, but it repeats a lot. How many times does it repeat? I don't want to be like a teacher, pedantic, but it's important in a way. So let's just go through them. You don't have to get. Let's just explore together. So the first one. And you get this beautiful hairpin. Number second. And again the hairpin. This is the third. And this is the heartache. This is the fourth. And it's the last. Okay, thank you. So how many times was that? Was it 4? Yeah, it's 4. But instead of just counting, but it is 4. So we have the presentation. So when you play this, Brahms already tells you what to do, right? He says piano dolce with new harmonies instead of, he says, it's so incredibly different. I wish you could be still fascinated by how different it is. You know, we practice and practice and practice and practice, so to make sure we know what's going on. But in the moment of conception of sound, when you're on the stage, you almost have to forget everything that you've worked so hard to do, to be consistent at. Because I think consistency and spontaneity need to happen, but I'd prefer if the consistency took care of itself. In other words, don't think too much. In a piece that's led by the heart, just lead from your heart and your ears, and just react to the moment. So if you want to take more time, if you want to do a different color, if you want to, just remember, it's a new experience every time for you and for the audience. So, and then same harmony, but pianissimo. And then maybe more yearning, right? Just, I don't know, hopefully those little differences are coming out. So don't worry about, being too correct. One more time. Surprise yourself now. Perhaps one of the more intimate versions here. It's lovely. It's lovely. The only thing I would say is, so you present the theme, and then there's a hairpin, which is almost like a commentary on what you just did. Try to sometimes not be expressive by showing how beautiful the harmony is. In other words, it's so beautiful. We all want to do this crescendo because it's so rich and it's indulgent, and I want to do it too. But sometimes I force myself to sort of have a not a first person, but a third person perspective. So each time you got more and more espressivo, I would just say, try sometimes to do more dolcissimo in the response, even though it's a hairpin. Because sometimes the most profound and emotional moments are not when we're telling anybody exactly how we feel, but just kind of how we're internalizing how we feel. It's more powerful. Yeah, that's lovely. One little detail. Can we jump now a little bit to pickups to 34/5? So that's the inversion, right? If we're getting technical. So I was listening. Where is the hairpin exactly written? Is it here? Where did you play it? You played it there. I do that too, but then I have to remind myself, oh wait, it's here. So what if one takes the dolce as a dolce semplice? Right, not so complicated. So there's nothing, it's unfettered, you know, it's unbothered. But internally, here, if you ride along with this idea that this is a rubato, it's very different. Do you want to try it? In tempo. Yeah. Un poco animato. Un poco. Can you lead with the bass? Più lento. Good. Where does this note go? Yeah, so hear the resolution first. Yeah. Yeah. Then, of course, we have this passionate F-sharp minor section that's kind of rhapsodic. This starts as quasi chorale, but we have a real chorale, canonic chorale afterwards. And you had a really nice plan. Can it be more rhapsodic? Because this is so organized, almost, you know, almost 3 and 1, 2. I don't want to say it's a sarabande, but it almost feels like it's that organized. Can this be more disorganized? This kind of more impulsive. And I think at the left end is the key. Sorry. Can the canon just the dissonance is just so heart aching. Yeah. This one. That against. Yeah. Your cellist or your violist. Finally, they get to do that. All right. Both voices, both. Keep going. Yeah, okay. I think we're about out of time, but you know, so in this section, you did the top first, and then you did the low, right? I would ask you, have you ever tried the top, and then it's a duet the whole time, but just have the secondary voice be the partner of the top voice, not more important. And in conversation, in dialogue. So you very often hear that, right? Oh, let's do soprano, then let's do the lower voice. But why not just do the accumulation of voices and even harmony, right? I think it's a completely different experience. Yeah, even more passionate then. Thank you so much. Yeah, wonderful to hear you. So now we have Yun, is it right? Yun with Ravel?
우리가 더 미니를 렌트카라.
Okay, thank you. Everybody knows the program? Okay. Thank you. A lot of brave people in this room performing. I give you all a lot of credit for doing this. At least the toccata comes at the end, so ideally you're warmed up, right? By then, so it's great. No, I liked so much of what you're doing. Very sensitive colors, especially when they're creating these pastels and these sort of moments of stasis. You really captured that very well. So of course, with Ravel, you can't play any of his piano works without thinking about orchestral works or orchestral versions of piano works. But in the case of this piece, it's sort of reverse engineering, because he wrote this and then he transcribed several movements, except the fugue and the toccata, right, for orchestra. So you always are thinking, well, I wonder, we're always trying to say, I wonder it should sound more like this instrument or this color. But then in this case, you don't have to guess. You can go right to the orchestral version. But in the case of the toccata, since it was not transcribed, do you have kind of a vision of instrumentation in color? Is it pianistic? Boy, I don't. Sometimes, but I know what you mean. Yeah, it's a sort of a piano piece. Yeah, yeah. But do you have for the colors? If you were to orchestrate it, do you have some ideas like what kind of instrumentation you would use? What kind of percussion? You don't know? Just that sounds pretty good. Something that's sharper, right? I always imagine, I don't know, just me, but when you have that kind of sound, he writes in these. It's not, I think, just a harmonic. These kind of, when he adds the acciaccatura in there, this, something very bright. So because I feel this piece has a lot of, I want to say almost Spanish influence for me. Like when I listen to flamenco music, I hear that guitar, right? The guitar sort of like, and then maybe some castanets. These are my castanets, right? Usually you do that. But, something, right, like, or clapping. It's pretty interesting because it's possible. It's possible, right? And then you get some guitar-like sounds when you get into the lower register. It sounds like the strumming of the guitar, or in flamenco style, maybe sometimes the percussiveness. Or, when you have kind of the earlier time, I'm not going to try to play the whole thing now. But you understand, right? This is the guitar chords. This kind of, I think it's zapoteada. It's like a heel or kind of tap dance, but I think it's with the heels. It's a dance. So as you know, this is a version of Baroque suite. Most of them, a lot of them are dances. Some of them are just Baroque forms, like toccata. The psychology is interesting because, of course, these are tombs in memoriam of this situation that you know about with World War I and the passing of his close friends and such. But if you actually hear just the music and you didn't know that, I mean, it doesn't sound. It's a different take on it, right? Because that in and of itself is already enough, just to say. So they're more light than you might imagine. But so it could be something like that. I want to just suggest that it is a 2/4, and so the rhythms of especially the ones in the dance and the reggaeton, it's also 2. Isn't it 2 beats? Dim, ba bum, ba 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 bum. So when you have a meter of 2, I think it's important to not play it in 1. And that being said, I just mean that I need to hear the second beat. Okay, so I also think if you put the pedal down, so it's easy to hear too. So it's one, right? Because it's right here. I don't think it takes away from anything, you know. That's with pedal. That's without pedal. I mean, without pedal, you're taking a, you know, you're assuming a lot of things. But I think the hall is a pedal anyhow, right? Acoustic of a hall. It makes it not less brilliant, but it makes it easier. I don't know. I don't want to explain why, but just try it because it gets too complicated. But just try it. Okay, and now can you play pianissimo? Yeah, so when you play pianissimo, same tempo. You can try, you know, you can try a little bit more forward and back if that helps. It's totally up to you. But yeah, and in terms of is the piano? It sounds like it's repeating very well, but stay a little closer to the key if you want it to be pianissimo. Oh, you have a different fingering. Are you doing 1 and 2? 1, 3. Let me try it. I can't. Oh, it's very okay. Can you try 3, 2, 1 because there's 3 notes? So it's 3, 2, 1. 3. And sometimes I'm imagining this kind of sort of. It's you're sliding towards your body. So it's not an up and down motion, but it's rather, yeah, so then try that. And then take the pedal off there when the castanets come in. Yeah. So you don't, if that looks a little uncomfortable, that's not my goal. Try now on the outside. And the important thing here, honestly, is this. Don't worry about, oh, I missed a micro note. Oh, I missed a whole, 16. It doesn't matter, because if you have the pedal down, it's just going to ring. Okay, so that's the point, is to take away the burden of having to practice this for 6 hours a day, only to go to a piano that doesn't repeat. Okay, so, but this we know we can do it. Okay, try. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Keep going. And then castanets. So a little more bite, I think. In all of these things, I'm saying the instrumentation because in every situation there's a little bit more precision in the attack. So yeah, so if you can try. Yeah, and then give us an accent. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, what would it sound like without so much pedal in those measures? Because I feel like maybe they're a little bit thumb cymbals or something. But the hall, let the hall do it because there are rests in the left hand. I want to hear those rests. Yeah, right. And then he writes pedal. He writes pedal. There's something very beautiful. So we have rhythm, 2, 1, 2, dum, ba, ba, ba. Ba, 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 B. And then there's static. That's such a beautiful moment when the rhythm disappears. Yeah, so try to imagine this is just a harmonic journey now, not a rhythmic one. So you play slowly. So normally you would play the opposite. You'd play less here, and you'd do more here, right? Because you want the chord to sound like this. But he wants it to sound like this. So that's interesting. So really get a bright sound here, and then just let it disappear. And then again, these clear little things. And then again, just I think that's beautiful when you have rhythmic and expectation and also boom, 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 boom. It's very entrancing for two measures. It's like, wow. I was just talking about, we practice to be precise and consistent. Yet when you get to a moment like this, or that, wonderful, unexpected G natural in the harmony, you have to also be fascinated. So go slowly, because it's okay to take time a little bit to enjoy this moment, because it's a long journey ahead of you. So it's just kind of a moment to say, okay, try it again. Just, yeah, anywhere is fine. Let me see if I can help you, because do you notice I'm focusing on your left hand, not all this? Because this will require lots of little micro exercises and whatnot. Can I just hear the left hand? And then we do. Sorry. Let's just do the left hand. Here, let's just focus on the important things right now, which I think is the left hand. Right here. So one more time. It's almost like that would be a nice doorbell, wouldn't it? I'm going to install this in my house. This. Yeah, just enjoy each little bell. Slowly. Good. What do you think of that? Nice. I'm glad. Okay, so let's keep going. Yeah. So now, how about this tempo for one tempo between both sections? Yum, bum, 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 bum. Let's keep this tempo. Keep going. Yup, up, 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 up. It's almost like xylophones or vibraphone or something. It's really fascinating, the orchestration. It sounds great on the piano, right? This kind of thing when it's percussion. So add the right hand, but only think about the left hand. Not fast enough. Lead with your left hand. Left hand is on the beat, right? So I know you're trying to bring out the offbeat, but don't try. just left hand. The left hand will support the right hand, especially rhythmically, because it's on the beat. Yum, yeah. Yeah. Ah. That's it. You'll get it. But you see the point of that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's jump to this great place here. Do you need the music? Okay. For the sake of fun, let's try rolls. Quick. That's why I played this. It's the same. It's exactly the same. Wow. Right? So the tradition is to roll it, because strumming. Just little quick rolls. Okay. Okay, now piano or pianissimo? Yeah. I don't think anybody can really detect, oh, she's rolling that. I don't think you can hear it, honestly. To me, it sounds better than just like a clunk, because it makes the sound kind of leap out of the piano, and it gives you that joyous quality. So can you just do it, but nobody will know you're doing it, right? Just slightly, because it's really hard to play this together anyways. I think it's very unnatural, so I don't think Ravel would mind so much. You know, there might be something wonderful about it. Try it. And then, again, lead with the left hand. It's nice to hear those open intervals. So basically, the rhythm section, right? It's a little groove you're creating. And then finally, we have something melodic. Go ahead. Yeah, it's a really good example. I mean, this is, you know, you say, well, what key is it in? I don't think it is. It's very modal. You know, there's modes, these really fits kind of the Baroque idea, or even earlier. So when you have this motion, you know, when you have this kind of these chords moving, and then the parallel motion, just kind of enjoy, like, oh, this is really different sounding. So it's sort of moving in parallel motion, but I like to hear the open sounds. I try not to think about it in a key. Yeah, you want to try? So we're moving. Yeah. So if you bring out this. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Yeah. 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 And again, I think every time you have this little repeated thing, I think you can sneak the pedal down in there. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Can you imagine that little lick is just this lick? So more color than brilliance. So pedal is okay, I think. Which notes define the harmony there? Yeah, yeah. First the left hand, I think, right? So focus again on the left hand a little bit more. Yeah, and then almost like a folk tune. Play it as beautifully as you can, because this is a place of repose. You finally get to rest a little bit so your fingers don't keep doing this, right? So technically, can you sync with the arm? Just try one note. All the way to the bottom. And there's a little slur. So technically, second note, a little less. And tenuto T. The tenuto to me is two things. One, it's an important note. Rachmaninoff does this a lot. He shows you which notes he thinks is the melody or which ones are important and all that massive, dense texture. And in this case, it's similar. And two, I think it's a rubato. I think it means slightly held, because you know, you hear the orchestra do it, and if you're a wind player or a string player, you do it naturally. But pianists, we always want to be organized and really precise. But here, you can take away the toccata feeling, just. So we have two yearning C sharps, and then you release. And it goes to B, and then take time on the portato. So try slowly, just the melody. That's right. It's a little bit different way to play because, you know, in, let's say, most romantic music, you're always trying to create the longest phrase possible, right? And so everything is kind of leading up to a moment that's supposed to be the moment, and then you go away from that moment, so you have an arc. This music is slightly different. You're just saying this color is nice. Now this one step down. You don't necessarily have a desire to go somewhere, right? It's just a release. So try it again. And then you repeat in a lower register, go. And then we have sequence of this idea that does build, okay? You want to add the other notes with that in mind? Okay, so when one has the surrounding notes around it, inside of it, I should say, underneath it, you have to do two things. You have to give a little bit more in the melody, and you have to give a little less in the inner voices. If I had a pencil, I'd put little commas between these. Breathe. And then a comma between each of those. They're like little steps, right? Little steps. One more time. That's right. Now it's just a note. Okay. So as you now begin to go towards something, still pay attention to the details. So it's ti da ti da ti da da da. I think it's very important to release. Ti da da dum bum pi. The syncopation. So it's very, very beautifully written because it's downbeat 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and. So try to, again, be expressive rhythmically, which is something that we do with the Baroque music, right? We play expressively with rhythm, especially if you're a Baroque harpsichordist, Baroque instrumentalist. Rhythm is very powerful as an expressive device. So I think a little bit that's what's going on here. Release. Then we get a downbeat. Okay. Okay. I think let's go back to the minuet. So everybody plays the toccata, right, separately. It's very popular to do that. I get it, you know. It's kind of a show piece, but I think this set is more. I mean, in my opinion, anytime we play a piece by Ravel, because of the first thing that I mentioned is one of the genius orchestrators. I think if you want to do that, that's fine, but think about it less as a technical virtuosic piece, as an opportunity to be a virtuosic colorist or orchestrator, to show off your ability to take the audience on a journey of color and instrumentation, right? And then I think it completely changes the view. So that's why I'm working on that with you on that. This minuet, I mean, he wrote several other minuets, right? It's not just this in this piece, but we have a sonatina minuet, separate minuets, antique Haydn. So I think what's important is to remember what a minuet is. So do you have an idea what it is? I mean, sure, it's a dance. What type of dance?
I don't know, like the Viennese dance.
It's always in three. Very often it's grouped in 2-bar units. So while it's in 3, it could be conceived as a 6-beat phrase. But I think the key here is just to remember these are small steps. Small steps, and it's very sophisticated in a way. It's very polished. So I think if you can take less, sort of a little bit more moving tempo, and in the steps a little bit more steps, like not like slow, heavier steps. If you go too slow, then the steps becomes, for me, bigger and heavier, and I would like to have it move a little bit so it sounds more like a minuet. So small steps, flowing. Let's try. Yeah, you see, you can imagine the small steps. He shows you right there. Good. Little details. We know it's not a sarabande because sarabande's a slow piece, first of all, usually with emphasis on something on the second beat. But he does say, I want the third beat more here, and then the downbeat. So 3, 1, 2, 3. So these little inflections that he puts in, I think is very, it's a signature of the minuet here. Let's try that. So don't change anything that you did before with articulation. Just kind of think about the tenuto, elongate the third beat, and lead us to the downbeat. So the second beat is probably the weakest one. 2, 3, 1, 2. Can you play with more pedal? This little charming thing. This little mordent exists, right from the beginning of the piece, but are you doing it before or on the beat? On the beat, fine. So can it be more precise? Okay. Go on. Just 3. So physically group the third to the first. So they're adjoined. So it's more logical. 3, 1, up, down, up. That's it. And then another release. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Right. For me, this is a little better tempo. You could even move a little more if you'd like, if you get comfortable. And then you have musette. I haven't played a musette since I was, I don't know, a kid. It's pretty nice. These instead of so in musette, we know it's musette because you have the drone. It's a very sophisticated version of musette. Can this flow a little bit? I liked how you created this hypnotic state, but I think the key is the bass. So try it a little bit. So we have so I like to pedal through so I can hear the drone. So try it a little bit. Yeah, it's very common that music has the downbeat, offbeat, and the push is usually to the offbeat. All right, in that pattern, you can keep through the whole thing. Just for acoustics, I wouldn't mind if there was a little bit more defined layer above the bass, so a little bit more top, but that's a tiny thing. we just have a moment left. Can you try this again? Because I'm never judging anybody when they play in the masterclass, because it's, because it's funny, because they play twice the second time and they sound better, and it's not because of what the teacher said, just because you're less nervous. So just play the first few bars and then we have to stop. So, yum. Okay, so yum pa pa pi ya pa 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 pa. Yeah, try it. Yum pa ya pa pa pa. That's it. Yeah, yeah. For me, that's a little bit more pleasurable instead of every second beat being so difficult to get to. Okay, thank you very much. All right, thank you. Is this mic still on? Can you turn the mic on? Thank you.
Sorry.
So, thank you. Do you mind if we switch? I have terrible luck with these iPad scores. I commend you for getting through the piece, really. It's a, you know, when these things happen, they happen to professionals, but it's not important. So, is this a relatively first performance or a new performance? Okay, very, very good start. You know, I think the important things to talk about today are, maybe we can go over a few things about how to navigate some of these technical things. But I want to start with, it's a really great time to be playing Chopin, isn't it? With the competition, the big competition in Warsaw, and so many people playing Chopin. And I think, you know, in terms of the preliminary round, I think this is one of the options, if I'm not mistaken, at least for one of the rounds. So you can hear a lot of wonderful, fresh interpretations. And do you have a favorite? Because Chopin is so personal. I mean, everything is personal, right? But especially Chopin. Do you have a favorite performance or a pianist? Zimmermann. Good choice. Can never go wrong with Zimmermann. Okay. I think for every great pianist that plays Chopin, there's probably, you know, if there are 10 of your favorites, they're all different, right? And that's the beauty of this music. There is no one way to do anything. For me, so the ballad, obviously, you can read about what this piece was inspired by. You know, there are these ideas about Lithuanian poetry and such. But at the end of the day, you have to find something personal for you. The opening, I think immediately, is some sort of invitation. So I'm not sure if you have that idea, but what is your, before I say anything, what is your version of this opening? It's kind of an introduction, right? Because the music kind of really starts here. And the bells go off. So we can call the opening an introductory section. Do you have some sort of vision of that?
You mean like a story?
Yes, exactly like a story, because it's ballad.
It's a man like sending an invite to a lady, like a gentleman sending an invite to a lady. So like so that's a question and
Mm-hmm.
the answer. And they do kind of develop together.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, yeah. I guess I am not that unique. That's almost exactly what I was thinking. um, good. Then we don't need a discussion. um, so, in order to make this sound like an invitation, how do we do that? So, where is the answer? Is this the answer? Or is it still part of the question? It's probably that's the answer. The hesitation. Exactly. So when you ask the second time, and then the harmony is different, it's more hopeful, like, okay, this is my last shot. And then finally the answer. Thank you for accepting. And then the dance begins, right? And then the brilliance of whatever kind of dance you think this is, it starts happening. So, can we go to a couple things? Can you imagine this, of course, is the melody. I think there's also a counter melody. One could argue that is this. Or, so can you imagine that this note has a stem up and a stem down? Because I like to imagine that this it actually starts here. Somehow it's easier to feel the descending line if it starts from the E flat. This one is quite simple, right? But this one, needs a little help. So sometimes I just I literally play two fingers, two hands to emulate two different people, two voices. Can you try just that? And then you can feel the contrary emotion. So how about you ask me the question? Like literally, I'm here, so why not? Let's have a conversation. So, or do you want me to ask the question? Who's sending the invite? Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
Well, I can do it.
Okay, go. So based on your invitation, I'm not sure. Now, can I send you the invitation? Yeah. So what am I doing differently?
Your invitation is
Stronger? Okay. My line is going towards the E flat, right? I'm a little bit more insistent. Sorry, you can tell me if it's too much. This, many people do what you did. It's perfectly legitimate. Because there's kind of a appoggiatura, right? But if one does that, then this E flat, what chance does this E flat have of sustaining through this measure? Like, it's not even there anymore. But if I go like this, it does two things. It kind of foreshadows the bell idea, which is, right, all of these bells. So, and more practically on the piano, it allows the sustain to last longer. And it's a little bit more friendly, like more inviting, so to speak. So now if you hear this, you can kind of still hear it, right? Okay, I definitely heard more E flat. What I think one has to do now is to make sure you temper underneath. So the sound, the beginning sound. So if you want to start big and get smaller, that's possible. That's very Horowitzian in a way, right? He'd love to start big. You can do the hairpin. You know, anything. But if you're considering the E flats decaying, I would start a little softer. Because somebody's asking you a question, and you're not sure if you want to go along with it. Perhaps that you start a little bit more reserved. So softer might work. So this, because you also hear this chord, right? It's marked mezzo voce too, so it's somewhere in the middle ground, right? And then little less. And then ask again. And then we have the hairpin. Then we don't have to guess, right, how to play that. You see? So the hairpin in measure 7 and 8, it's definitely to here and then away. So that's the other reason I like to imagine this one is the opposite. You also have this crescendo that's open-ended. So it also is like I am extending an open invitation to all of you, you know. It's not a closed one, so it's open and then. Okay, everybody RSVP'd. So by the end, now I'm closing it. Now let's party. Okay? Let's try it. So a little bit more exaggeration to hear it. To the tonic. It's the right idea. Let's talk about 6/8. It's interesting. It's allegretto. Allegretto, not allegro, allegretto in mezzo voce. So it's a very nice way to actually start a piece. So, you know, it's fun. Some pieces start incredibly dramatically, like the first ballad. Or they sort of emerge like the second, right? Or the fourth. But this one starts in between, it's friendly, I would say. That's what it is to me. Allegrettos are quite friendly. So this meter of 6/8, bom, 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 bom. To avoid a squareness, because I heard a little bit that this verticalness. Can you imagine that? So that's why I played this. Imagine this is the pulse of the universe, right? It's forever. It's always there. And you join it. So you're not starting it. So same thing. What if I did... So you have, so let's try this. Almost like Baccarat, right? Can you just play that measure? Oh, so you're in the, so let me, I'll start it. It's already better. So I'll start it, and then you join me whenever you're ready. Time. And that being said, now that you know where it goes, your job is not to show where it goes. do I sound strange? So, in other words, you already know it's going to go there. So the audience actually doesn't need help because you already have established that that's the line, right? So in your own mind, if you already know where something is going and then you're trying to show where it's going, then it tends to overemphasize. So now let's see if we can find that middle ground. So ready? Yeah, that's right. Which is the opposite, these two notes. Right? Yeah, because you're expecting, no, we good. You could even do it with just timing, you know. So then when you go back to the beginning, imagine this is actually crescendoing. It's free. It's beautifully free, but I'm still hearing this all the whole time. So start the piece and let it flow. So a little thing. I think it's a matter of legato. Can I hear these two notes? That's right. Yes. Right. So if you want to take care of the melody when it's part of a chord, it's always a good idea to practice it isolated, to figure out what the hands need to do, what the ear needs to do. So, and then the chords, it's about, I would suggest practicing, making them insignificant actually. So melody first. So if you want to practice with the chords, see I'm releasing the chord. Yeah, because when we think chords, we're always thinking this way. So when you add the length of the note, it's the same touch, it's just held longer, it's not heavier. So that exercise allows you to put the weight into the melody and then take it away from the inside of the hand. So, and release a little bit earlier, and then release. Have you ever practiced like that? You have? Oh, good. It's very useful. I do it all the time. Okay, now let's go on. Let's get it started. Okay. Let's talk slowly through this because there are so many little wonderful details. The bass here, what is the marking there in terms of articulation? So it's a staccato. Right? And what is the articulation here? Yeah, okay, so not the rhythm, the articulation. Yeah, it's kind of a trick question because there's no articulation, but yeah, so one is a staccato and one is not. Now, does it matter? Okay, why? Why does it matter? Okay. So can you show me the difference through the sound and the approach into the keys? Yeah, exactly right. So one is off the key, from the key probably, right? So you don't have much weight, and that allows a buoyancy. You know, I think Chopin, because especially at the time, the pianos he was playing on, we all know, it's not as heavy as a bass. So there's kind of a lightness to the bass always. And you'll notice if you look through the scores, he very often puts staccato. I don't think it means short. I think it's a sonority marking, much like Debussy, right? It's a light, yeah, it's just enough to resonate, But when it doesn't have it, so it's the opposite. So it's from above and down, instructs. Almost like a bell. So these two hands are doing exactly almost the opposite, I would say. You still need to come from above, obviously, but so this left hand probably, if I were to choreograph it, it works expressively because this is up and then what happens here? Down. It works very beautifully. Up, down, here. Right? So your hands are dancing, and it's great. Okay, good. So now can we talk about this little thing? Can I see it one more time from here? I like to hear. Have we heard this before? Have we heard those notes before? Where? Think very, very early. It's right there. It's the other reason I kind of like to sneak that in there. Because he uses it later. It just displaced an octave, right? So, counter melody. Okay? So start there, and I want to talk about the C to the F when we get to it. Okay. Is it comfortable for you to go ro-rom, ro-rom? Yeah. But is it comfortable? He says, it's a terrible thing to do to us. It's like legato, play legato, and then play C to F legato. I'm like, I don't think so. Thumb to thumb. So why not do this? Why not just do? Wouldn't that make life easier? You know, as you can tell, I like to take the easy path, the path of least resistance that gets you the result the quickest. Is it okay? Nobody's going to mark it down. Don't worry. Just if it sounds better, then do it. That's my simple answer. Good. Keep going. And then enjoy the variations. So, do you know what I mean by the variation? It's always a little bit creative. Yeah. It gives it a little nobility. Ra-dum-bum. So the first one's quite elegant. Ti-dum, ti-dum. And the second one is a little bit more dignified. I don't want to say polonaise, but it's a little bit more close to that than waltz. Okay, good. And secondly, just go ahead and keep your sound. The line is going on, and that's right. Because the ultimate goal is to create a phrase that ends there. So if you don't have to do too many little phrases, it's nice. I think the first time is beautiful to have two phrases, you know, or two small ideas. But the second one, maybe it continues to here. It's very suave, isn't it? It's very elegant. It's long line. Good. Bum, 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 bum. There's our dignity again. So you go from kind of a private conversation, you know, you're singing to each other, dense, you know, within talking distance, to something that's a little bit more operatic, right? You want to project to the back of the hall, right, where we stopped. So more operatic sound. Good. Couple thoughts. Has to do with rhythm. Has to do with rubato and how you treat the rhythm in measure 25. So you were very, very disciplined about the beat. I thought it was pretty steady. 2, 3. But what if it wasn't, right? What if, because for me this transition is getting more excited. What if you slightly cheat and get to the G flats, the offbeat, a little earlier, and the longer one slightly early than you should? That allows you to hang on it just a little bit, correct? And that allows that decrescendo marking that's so elusive to actually have a chance to happen. And what it does, it creates this sort of movement like this. Yum, rum. You want to try it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry. And then even that, as treacherous as that is, just go for it. 1, 2, a little bit, even sooner. 2, 3. So it's almost like you're rushing, but you're just getting there early, that's all. And then you're in business, right? Then you just swing through it. You can experiment with that idea, but for me that works. That works through this because it tends to be, I don't know, I feel like it keeps starting and stopping a lot, right? And this kind of solves a little bit of that issue. This beautiful passage. Sorry. How does he come up with this stuff? Like a normal person would play. A little bit more sophisticated person would go. I mean, maybe, but he does. But then on top of that, he does. Sorry about the pedal. Right, that's. And that's just so beautiful, right? So on top of this amazing. You just want to think that this is like a constellation of stars that's just streaming out of the piano up into the sky, into the universe. And then you send this, the purity of C major. So definitely, yeah. In my opinion, you can take as much time and you can do whatever you want to go forward or back in this passage. Time stands still here. It's one of those moments where, Chopin is saying, yes, I was the first impressionistic composer without even knowing it, He's just already doing so many things that are, and he doesn't even know. I don't even want to label anything. It's just beautiful, right? He went from that to this later, right, in Opus 47 from Opus 10. Okay, just want to point that out. Okay, can we jump a little bit to this? So we end the first part of our evening with the same way we began the dance, right? Okay, now the second dance. Good, very good. Can you turn to the score? Because there's some things we should discuss detail-wise. Do you believe the melody? Well, play what you believe the melody is after these sighing bells. You know. What time is it at night? Let's see, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Still not. Well, it's just the evening's just starting, right? I like to imagine these kind of things because, like, everybody else goes home here, and okay, goodbye, guys. Shh. Let's start another one. Okay, so now play me what you believe is the melody from here. Perfectly acceptable. If one takes the idea that the melody is born from the sign gesture, these bells, whatever you want to call them, then if you accept that idea, then another possibility could be right? It's actually here, but he puts it into a block chord. Can you just entertain that thought for a second? Start here. Very subtle what you did, but how do you like it? I shouldn't say that. How do you feel about it? I'm leading you to a point that I don't give you a choice. How do you feel about that?
I like it. It's kind of like dance.
Yeah, it continues that swing that we started. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah. So if you're going to do it, you can once in a while really, show that you mean to do it. So this one is a little more subtle. I do it by not playing that note too short. See, that's a way to get around the bumpiness of that moment. And when it turns to 6, I really love 6. I think it's one of his favorite intervals. He's obsessed with that. So I think that's a very expressive interval. And when it's played as a dyad, just go ahead and enjoy the 6th. So you can hear it. Yeah, it's okay because that's lingering still in the ear. So when you get to this moment, it's like, uh-oh, it's too late. Should we stop? Should we go home? There's always a little bit of, it's never one emotion, right? There's elegance, but there's also slight foreshadow of something to come, which is the C-sharp minor section. All right, so I just wanted to share that with you. And then yet another dance. Good. Yeah, good. I've said this earlier, but I know this is a challenge and you practice that a lot. But if you stabilize your left hand a little bit, if you think that this is a little bit more important, especially here, I just mentioned the 6th. What happens then? Can you just do the same thing and then we'll have to stop? Even more. That's the opposite. Remember that? 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that allows the swing. So just try now the right hand with the left hand. And then let the left hand lead the right hand, not the right hand pulls the left hand. Yes, and yet another dance. Okay, so it's an amazing work full of dances, obviously full of storytelling and full of joy. And thank you for playing it. Yeah, very good. So we move from, there's a theme. I started to see there's a theme. We have a little bit waltz, dance, narrative here, and we go into something that's narrative and definitely a waltz. So do we have little breaks in this class?
Nagai usually has take breaks, so if you want to take a moment, for sure we take a break.
I think we all could stretch, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. Just a couple minutes, few minutes?
I'll
All
just
right.
give you, I have just a paper cut.
Very exciting. Bravo. Definitely. Yeah. It's a really convincing performance. Congratulations on that. Yeah. You're supposed to bring the house down. So yeah. So don't worry about those little things. It's like Miles Davis. You make a mistake. I meant it. Yeah. There's no wrong note, right? Yeah. It adds a lot. I mean, his technique was just to hold the note until it became correct, right? In his solos. So it's like, I'm not wrong, you come to here. Yeah. Great. So can you talk to the audience about the piece a little bit? Because I think you know a lot about it.
Sure.
Yeah?
I think the story is that...
Yeah, go ahead and address them.
Hello.
Yeah.
Back to teaching. It's supposed to be on the same grade.
Yeah. Sharing. Yeah.
I'll tell my students that.
Yeah.
Mephisto and Faust are walking past a wedding, and Mephisto convinces Faust that they should wedding crash, and steals a fiddle and begins to play and entertains the audience. So I kind of imagine like he's almost like trying out or tuning. You have the strings of the fifths and the fiddle, and I kind of like to imagine like heads like snapping and being like, oh, like what's going on over there? And he takes a while, and then he lets loose, and then gets to the dates there. And then that's like my broad understanding, and then it devolves to like the nightingale alone in the night at the very end.
Or even a little earlier.
Yes.
At the break of dawn.
Yes.
It's another party piece. Yeah, go on.
That's about, I think any more would be my own moments at the party. If you had my score, you'd see I wrote down, especially in the middle section, little, conversations or stuff where Faust is trying to, fit in and frustrated, and then eventually Mephisto kind of, there's, a possession moment, and here you get where Mephisto is kind of in Faust, taking control a little bit, and at first Faust is, stoked, and then here he's like, oh, wait, this is out of my control, and, he kind of realizes he's signed himself over.
Okay. Well, I like your version, your translation.
Yes, I might be missing. I've told all I know of the actual story.
No, it's definitely narrative and programmatic, and so I thought when I was listening to you that you had that in your mind as you played, because anytime we play these kinds of works, ultimately, no matter how many notes or how it's branded as a virtuosic piece, we are storytellers, and so I thought you did that well. So good for you. It is based on an episode of Lano's Faust, not Goethe's Faust, but Lano's Faust. It's very specifically taken a specific scene at a village inn. So you all can look that up, and it's very clearly written, and you outlined it. So it's various things, but yeah. So I think let's take the elements that you described. So I think I want to use those elements even more in this already very good polished performance. And one is, I almost made a joke. I think I'll just share it. Very instrumental to this story is the violin. I guess pun intended. So the violin is a character for me in this story. It's a very important role. Mephisto and Faust, and I would say the idea that there is Mephisto is not just one, like you think, oh, you know, devilish, this kind of, but it's more of sort of a scheming quality. Like, you know, it's a very mindful, intelligent version where Mephisto is in disguise as a very attractive person, but of course behind the mask, we all know what that is. So it's a very handsome version and a very attractive. And so this is an adult audience, right? So I can say there's a lot of seduction going on. There's a lot of delirium and perhaps some, you know, drinking and whatnot. And then this dance is, it's almost like possessing these things going on. So there's element of seduction. However you want to interpret that, I think that is important. The way that you hear, right? So when you play this interval, which is quote unquote devil's interval, right? Tritone, it's forbidden, verboten, never. But it becomes so attractive, this interval, because so that's why I say in disguise, it's kind of appealing all of a sudden. So I think there's that I want to address, so just kind of that idea, those key elements. And the main theme, this could be kind of Faustian, you know, our protagonist, the hero. But if you also imagine, perhaps it is actually Mephisto. It's almost galloping in, you know, even though it's a waltz. And then what happens to this motive? It's like, ha, ha, ha. And then, you know, so that's this gleeful naughtiness. So there's that. Interpretive things that will help the melody. And then, so the idea of the violin, I'm glad you said the tuning. So it's tuning of the violin. Sure, we all know that you hear the open fifths, right? And in this register, you can even extend that further. Say, you know, when you go to orchestra concerts, you hear this same sound. So it's the tuning of the orchestra. So it's even expanded. And again, there's an orchestral version of it. So there are more than one Mephisto waltzes, you know. So I would only suggest two things. Number one, I think the opening is in a 4-bar unit. So the first being the measure of rest. So I think that's important. So when it comes back later, I would like it to feel that. So it's at the beginning, and it's at the end. It's very important. So, you know, after all of this sort of improvisatory thing, which you did very well, and you're right, the nightingales come back, and it's cadential. When he has this moment at the end, if you look, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4. It's not really 1. Sure. So I think that's important. So in the beginning, similarly, if you can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it's already sort of shifty, you know? The beat is not 1, but it's 2, 3, 4, 1. And that's one thing, how you feel the grouping of the 4-measure unit. And the second thing is, it's up to you. There is a long pedal in the opening, right? Almost nobody does it. You know, and I get it. But you snuck it. I was wondering when you were going to sneak it in, and you snuck it in kind of, I don't know, was it around here a bit?
Yeah, I started.
Yeah?
Pedal, and then I started here.
So, yeah, when you go to an orchestra concert, if you hear it, it really does sound like, it's because they are sustaining. Let's forget about the rhythm for a second. You kind of hear this kind of, you kind of hear that. It really does sound. So maybe add it earlier. So it can possibly, another version, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Even there, so once the fifth happens, then you're evoking, because it's a very evocative piece, you're evoking an orchestra tuning. then perhaps the French horns. This is, to me, a very French horn. Right, this kind of call, and it's almost Faustian right there. So do you see what it does? It also, so you establish rhythm, the pattern, and then by the time the beat comes in, you already know the pattern. We'll hear it. So it turns into, you're still pulsing, right? But you're adding the pedal. So it's a shallow pedal, and it gets deeper as more notes accumulate. So I want to add, layers to your performance that might be fun to explore. So can you try?
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. It's Lenny, right? Yeah, Lenny. So the only way that I've found I can show the downbeat is ironically or conversely as an upbeat. So this is 1, 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
At least you feel 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so then the challenge becomes to really listen differently. So it's a very different concept of the opening. I like yours. There's nothing wrong with it, by the way. It's very rhythmic. It's exciting. But what if we turned it into immediately more something that's more colorful and more symphonic? So the theme of this with me right now in this piece with you is to have how can we find ways to make it more symphonic and to bring out coloristic elements because of the story, the alluring part of the story, the part that's magical. So maybe more conceptual. Can you just try this? It's a wonderful moment because as pianists we can never crescendo on a long note, but here actually we can emulate the orchestra's sustaining and growing. So let's just try without the rhythm. Just kind of don't worry about just kind of sneak in. Can you try just that crescendo with layers of color? You almost don't need as much punctuation.
Yes, yes.
Yeah? So, yeah, so I think start with what you did. 1, dry. Maybe at the end of that, then. I guess the other, umbrella idea is that you're in disguise. You don't want to know you're seducing these villagers. You're just a person coming in playing the fiddle. So you're being a little sneakier. But if you, it's a little bit obvious. But when he writes forte marcato, then go ahead, absolutely, with the crescendo. Because it's interesting. There's no crescendo until this moment that's. So at that moment, then open up. One last time. Let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sneak the pedal in. Ba-ba-bee-da, ba-ba-bee-da, bee-da, bee-da, dee-da, dee-da, dee. And then pizzicatos, of course, because the violin is the character in the opening. It's cool, right? So those. And then you have this surprise harmony. What happened? Silence. So that little kind of timing issue, let's try it at the very end. So that was great. It's so super clear. It's great. But can it sound more like a bowl? Rum, rum. So the way to achieve this is to use your wrists along with the fingers. So move the wrists first, not the fingers. Yeah, so it's almost like literally almost like you're bowing. So it's more this, like try this. See how I'm just kind of releasing? Yeah, so you are almost, you're releasing upwards. Can you release to the side? So go work with the direction of the music, not against it. So go that way. Sorry? So it's just almost like you turn your hand over. I made an omelet today for breakfast, and you just flip the omelet. Okay, just turn it over. Yeah. Don't think too much. It just, or I don't have a broom. If I did, I'd just do a little sweeping on my floor. So sweep. That's all. Okay, good. Let's keep going. So this one is actually the downbeat now, right? 1, 2, 3. That's the nice thing about the second time. Okay. 2, 3. Pizzicatos now. So, yeah, the reason I mentioned violin is because I don't know if you play violin or you don't really need to understand this, but there's certain things that violinists do out of necessity because of the technique of it. You know, they break chords. So there's a timing. It's a violin timing, so there's a little bit more of a gap sometimes because of the necessity that the difficulty that it takes to do certain technical things. And when he's writing this, I think this definitely is a violinistic passage. As pianists, we can play that absolutely in time, but imagine a violinist on this moment playing a double stop, a chord. So there's a little bit of time, right? So now instead of that, so things like that. And this, you can just, it's not a difficulty of timing, but it's an organization of the group. So can you try? And then when you get to the continuous one, so you can breathe, 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 move. Yeah. So this is pizzicatos. Breathe, 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 and move. Breathe. Right. So it's as if you kind of, even though it's pizzicato, let's say you retake. Like when you say, retake. It takes a little time. So between. Even though we can easily do that, just add a little bit. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. Go on. Breathe. That's good. Shh. Okay. Is there a reason it's getting louder? Is it? It's just happening. Okay. I mean,
the forte is not for a little bit, and even in this passage, it's
right.
forte. Right.
So can I try to help you stay piano?
Yes.
Because you don't want it forte. Okay.
Yes.
Can you lighten up your thumb and lighten up your arms? Okay. Just right on the octaves. And good. And 2 notes in 1 gesture. And the last one is up. And when you play, imagine that you have no weight in your arms at all. You're like a feathery bird wing. Yeah. And close to the key. Yeah. And imagine a decrescendo. So if I can say very simply, perhaps it's a slur. That's it. And see how it's getting, imagine a decrescendo as it builds. You know, then crescendo. There it is. Good, see? You didn't even practice it, and it's almost there. So imagine when you practice, it'll be very exciting. Okay, good. Now, so I mentioned this could be a French horn, right? I think in a way, can you imagine this is also a horn? You know, it's too big and marcatissimo to be, I think, strings. So when you get to there, let's just get into that. In there. Yeah, so that being said, horns don't have a damper pedal, right? So, so that's the only thing. And imagine thumb, thumb, thumb. So you're playing that actually with your arms. That's number one. Number two, do you notice this is more than forte when you end up here? And then that takes away from fortissimo here. That's less effective than. So when you're getting louder with these chords, sometimes you want the hands to be very firm, especially when you need to play very softly. It's counterintuitive, but the fingertips should be more firm. The rest is free. But when you're playing really loud chords, if your hand is too rigid, you get this kind of. It can be effective, but in this case, can you do the opposite when it's really big? Soften up the hands, so softer hands. And it almost is not necessary to crescendo because by the nature of the way the instrument is built, it will happen. And then, so from within this sound, imagine forte piano. That's it. And then, so we're trying to create something bigger by making it more important. And the way we do that is not by pounding it out louder, you know, by taking the time to emphasize every note. So, you know, you're a teacher, right? So when you want your students to listen, you're not screaming at them. No. You might even talk softer. This is the last time I'm going to say this. Right? So it's fortissimo, but take more time. Listen here. That's it, right? Don't have to pound it out. Bo-bo-be-do.
Do you want me to just keep going?
Yeah, that's all fine. We went over that, and you can adjust the taste, right? So here, so if you'll recall, try to imagine this is a little slower, because I like to think to myself, this is always going to be slightly broader, that gesture of the pickup. Right? So even though technically it should be, it's really hard to hear that in the hall, correct? And I think for that purpose, broaden it, and also for the purposes of character, which is more significant, broaden it. And so you almost want to take another tempo here, and then, you know, a more devilish quality. So it's just two sides. I call it the devil in disguise here. Okay, you want to try? So slightly broader. Very normal, devilish. Yeah, so good. So here, this hall, listen. It's wonderful, there's a resonance. But if you go, you can't really hear those two notes. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Little space. Aha, I see. Yeah, that's perfectly respectable. There's a pedal here. I'm using the hall as my pedal. So you can pedal, but when you come up, the hall will carry it. If you don't put the pedal up, no matter how much time you take, it will still be blurry. All right? So off the pedal. Go on. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, good. Yeah, so I am being a little more detailed, a little more picky because, you know, that's a good thing, right? Little details. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. I can't hear the second beat. So, can I hear the second beat? And again, if you release the pedal between 1 and 2, it will be easier to hear that. Let's try displacing the pedal 1 beat. So only, actually not 1 beat, 1/2 beat. So only put it on the off beat. So you put it here. So it comes. You see, makes it easier. Yeah, good. I can't believe I have only 5 minutes. But we're going to get through it. Let's keep going. So go ahead. And then, here's the little, it's a cute Mephisto.
Yes.
Okay, right hand is very good. The left hand could be better. If I hear, only for the fact that this is the dance rhythm, and I can't hear it, I need to hear it. And it also, it's really hard to do this crescendo, right? This is very weak notes.
Yes.
I mean, there's a limit, but the left hand can really assist that. So focus on. Try. It's similar to what I've been saying in the right? So completely shift where the accent is. So play the bass soft and play the offbeat a little more. There, good. Now add in little. Go to the. Yeah, you know, the only reason I'm pushing you so fast is because of the time limit, but you know, that I know you will practice. So that idea is great. So before we stop, I have to talk about the seduction. If you look at the text carefully, do you notice the slur with the dot?
Yes.
If I could have a slide, you know, so this is that version. Sure. Yeah. Can you try that once for me? Just with. Yeah. Where's my martini? Right? I feel like I'm in a cocktail lounge. It's not a bad idea, but the staccato, release. Now imagine the slide, but don't really play it. Off, off, off. Here's the devil, doing this. See, it's very attractive. And then all of a sudden, there's always that. So no matter what transformation of the theme you play, this one. And then could be that if you wish. Okay, good. So one little suggestion for this, which you already did. This is very treacherous, so. Have you ever practiced the lower voice? Just the lower voice?
No,
Because we are obsessed with this, but actually,
the left hand's hard too.
yeah, that would be my suggestion. Just isolate that,
Okay.
these kinds of things. All right? Let's end it. Let's end it. You did this so well. So here, just from here. And then show us that first measure of silence in presto. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Stay in tempo. Good. One small thing. You might be adding little extra. You might be adding a little bit of too much extra time. You can almost imagine that the accelerando is still going on. You know, that we don't have these gaps.
Okay.
That's another interpretation. And then just a practice tip. See, I missed it too. There you go. So that's the practice tip, right? Just the thumbs.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah.